I try to think ahead as much as possible, right? Like we can't predict the future. But we can certainly contribute to creating it. And I knew that just based off of historical data, um, the bear market or a bear market will come. It always does. And the bull will ensue, and then a bear, and then, at some point, perhaps as the industry matures, the pattern will change. But based off of the last three, this is most likely to happen again. And I started planning as such, right? Meaning, started thinking about um, different ways to expand our offerings and services and the things that we did. So we built, at this point, I had 18 employees working at Starter. We built, 6 developers on the team. So I'm no longer doing all of the coding. I would do a lot of the code reviews and so forth. But I started directing the dev team to build NFT Launchpad. Started directing them to build a GameFi product called Starchy, which is really, really great what we've done there. Um, you know, and started looking at real world applications. So what can we do, in the real world that complements everything that we're doing in a decentralized world, which is something like ABC. But it never pulled the trigger. Um, but it was a desire, and I knew that in order to establish ourselves for long term as a launch pad for blockchain based projects, it would behoove us to have an in person presence somewhere. Again, one of those things with timing, right time, right product. At this point, I'm looking at other places to live, mostly for family reasons. And we're considering Atlanta. Had been to Atlanta, obviously. Miami's only an hour and a half away. So kind of knew a bit about it. I joined some of the blockchain meetups that they had back in pre-pandemic days, and would come here back and forth, but never really looked at it from an economics perspective, right? And whenever I do anything as an entrepreneur, I'd love to understand the market. I love to understand, um, you know, the fundamentals, be like outside of whatever product or idea that I have, right? So I started looking at Atlanta in that sense, like, what is this city? What's unique about it? And started discovering those amazing stats that we are all aware of, like the fintech capital. 70% of financial transactions being processed through this infrastructure. 16 or 17 of Fortune 500 companies have headquartered in Metro Atlanta. ATL Hartsfield being the busiest airport in the world, number 1. Georgia Tech, number 4 engineering school, in the country. And these are stats that blows out a lot of other cities. I'm not going to be specific about which ones, but I was just blown away, and then so Atlanta confirmed to me that it's a great place to build, especially if you're an entrepreneur and especially if you're in tech. But the second most important metric was its lack of a real blockchain, a cohesive blockchain community, right? And coming from Miami, whenever I go back home, there's just too many things to do. I get invited to so many things. I don't tell certain people that I'm coming back because
you don't want to feel
everyone wants to see me. They want me to come here or come there. And it's just too many things happening in crypto in Miami, saturated.
Yeah.
So here's this city with these amazing stats as an economy. Here's this city that is the fintech capital of the country and arguably the world in terms of, the activity and payment transactions and the presence of fintech companies headquartered here. And then here's this city that isn't prioritizing blockchain in any material capacity. So I said, damn, that idea for having an in-person incubator, this is the best place to do it. And that's essentially how the Blockchain Center came to be.
I remember receiving the article my friend sends me as I'm getting into Web3 about you starting Atlanta Blockchain Center in the Atlanta Business Chronicle, and then cold DMing you and being like, "Yo, what's up? Like, I want to be a part of this because like there's so little opportunity to meet up with people in real world unless you're willing to go do the whole conference thing, which I'm not discouraging. I've enjoyed myself at conferences, but it's so temporary. It requires a lot of coordination, but having a mainstay, a place to go, to meet people, to get educated, it was needed. It was needed. And every time I come up to the Atlanta Blockchain Center, I meet at least one more new person, right?
Yeah.
What you have built there is it's amazing, to say the least. We're recording this episode in November. I will be releasing it in December, but I can safely say of my 30 some odd episodes that I've recorded that in some, maybe not direct, but like maybe second order related, almost half my episodes have come from you in the place. And so I know that the episode is about you, but just this is amazing what you're doing here at Atlanta Blockchain Center, and the approach is a long-term one too. It's not like you're hopping in and trying to get everybody to come, buy office space there and like do all this stuff. Like you're like, all right, what's first? Education. And like, as you know, with my new focus for this show, it is all about changing that perception problem. And the way that we do that is by providing safe environments for kids and adults to enjoy themselves. Right. I always see I've met your sons up there. It's really cool to see that they are participating in the Atlanta Blockchain Center. And I brought my kid to Web3 ATL this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
He was a hit. I don't think many people see a 5-year-old at these conferences. But it's really plugging the gap, right? And I know you have a big vision for Atlanta based off of these factors that you've talked about. What else can you share about the Atlanta Blockchain Center and your vision that you feel like would help the audience understand why this is so important?
Oh man, I love to discuss that. I think, having now, experience Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3, I can confidently say that blockchain technology is going to touch everyone's lives in the future in a very big way. And just like the technologies before it will usually go unnoticed by a significant portion of the people that it's going to impact. But that's great because it leaves this huge gap of opportunity for people like us, people like, you with your education initiative and podcasts, and, so it's going to transform our lives same way some Web 2 businesses have in Web 1. Now, I mentioned how powerful Atlanta is from an economic perspective and culture and so forth. And I really believe that we have the power to elevate Atlanta, at least, in the eyes of industry builders and investors in Web3 to be a place that they want to come and invest their next, and build their next businesses. But it's going to take a lot of effort, right? It's going to take a lot of collaboration. With what you're doing is amazing. What we're doing at the Blockchain Center, what A New Way is doing, what Blockchain Georgia Tech is doing, Planned Profit. I mean, there's so many people here that are passionate about Web3, and in their own way, they're contributing. And it's the same thing that happened in Miami. Again, I recall when it was very little to no activity happening in Miami around blockchain and crypto. It wasn't this sudden boom overnight. These were things that were happening behind the scenes. And when we got the right people involved, more and more, like the mayor of Miami, that's when, non-Miamians started paying attention. But there was a ton of work being done behind the scenes. And the same thing's happening here in Atlanta. And the reason I think is important is it's home now. I love to live in winning cities. Blockchain is all I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I have no interest in anything else like Web2 or, all the traditional like SaaS and cloud, and absolutely no interest in any of that. It's either blockchain or bust for me. So naturally, I'd like to see the community thrive. And I believe that having a physical facility, a pillar that you can always point to say that is an organization, an entity that's helping drive blockchain forward in Atlanta is key. And the compensation will come later. We think that we're going to launch some amazing projects through the Atlanta Blockchain Center. The work that we set out to do, although we've done a lot in the last 5 months, we haven't even touched on it, right? Mostly because of the market climate today. But Atlanta Blockchain Center has proven to be a great source of education and networking. We have yet to prove ourselves as a great source for fundraising and investing, and that's next. So pretty soon in Atlanta, companies are going to, aspiring or established founders who are building in Web3 can say, hey, I can go to ABC and find funding. I mean, we're not going to fund everybody, but there's a process for that. There's an established process to raising funds for your projects in Web3.
It goes back to your word launchpad, right? Like it isn't a retail VC shop where you could just come in and order funding, right? This is a place where you can go to find the network that you need to be successful. That's what I hear you saying.
Right. Absolutely. And our success to me isn't, we're not going to, look at the next year or two to gauge success. We're really looking at 5 to 10 years. I'm just going to keep busting my ass for the next, 4 years.
I'm there with you.
To help contribute and elevate the city to be a blockchain innovation hub, and then figure out, okay, what am I going to get out of this now, right? Because now it's purely investing in Atlanta. The pay would come later. The last thing I would like to mention that I think is equally important is one of the biggest initiatives that spearheaded the movement in Miami was a conference, an industry conference, and it was a North American Bitcoin conference. And that's why next summer we're going to be hosting a conference called Immutable. So Immutable conference is going to be held at the Fox Theater downtown. We've been working on this stealthily for the last 2 months. We have almost 40 speakers already. and 10 sponsors. Lots of activity. We have a website. We haven't publicly announced it yet. We have a full agenda. The first day before the opening, we're going to have a tour of Atlanta, taking VIPs to Atlanta Tech Village. And all these names I'm going to mention, they already agreed, by the way. That's how far we are into this thing.
Love it.
Atlanta Tech Village. Then we're going to take them to ATDC. We're going to take them to Peachtree Corners. We're going to go to ABC, of course. We're going to go have lunch at Twin Peaks. Then we're going to go have an open party at ATV on the rooftop to kick off the conference. And the next day, we're going to go to the Fox, and we're going to have amazing sessions. Jeff Garsick is coming back. We have Dennis Lockhart, who's the former CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. We have a ton of industry insiders, of course, folks like Justin Daniels and just so many other people on board already, that this is going to be huge. This is going to help bring eyes outside of Atlanta that's involved in love blockchain to start looking at the city, because that's part of the formula. It's part of the formula of elevating this metro area as an innovation hub for blockchain. So our weekly events will continue. Our incubation will continue. And this large conference is going to be sort of the culmination of all of that. But I think one of the most important parts of the conference for me will be the pitch fest, because all the companies that we incubate, they're going to pitch at the competition. They're going to compete at the pitch competition, and that's when we're going to start funding our first 1 to 3 companies. We haven't decided. We have Tim Doors at Techstars. He's going to help prepare them for the pitch fest to get their pitches right. He's also going to be a judge at the pitch fest. I mean, just sharing some alpha with you, with showing you how much detail has already gone into this, without announcing it yet officially.
You got a few weeks between this recording and launch too, so if we need to go back and add a few moderators or speakers there that happen to run this show, there's also room for that. So
sounds good.
No, man, it is. It's all jokes aside. It's a trajectory, right? Like, you are building the trajectory to go up and to the right. It starts with figuring out how serious people are here, and the people that show up week after week at the Atlanta Blockchain Center, contributing to growing that network, providing a good experience there, which, I feel like every time I've been there, which is quite a bit, anytime I can get my wife to agree to let me run away for 6 to 8 on Thursday, I'm there. And everybody is so enthusiastic. I talked to people last night when we're recording this in November, but last night they were part of those early groups, part of the ones that you were going to. And they were like, what happened to those? But now they have this, and they're so excited to have this. So, big pat on the back to you and Angela and the rest of the team at Atlanta Blockchain Center. I'm really excited about the conference, contribute in any way that you'll let me contribute, because I too agree. I love this freaking city. Like, I do. I'm born and bred this. In fact, just a funny aside, I own season tickets to the Atlanta United. And everybody's like, are you a huge soccer fan? I'm like, no, not really. I'm actually a fan of anything that unifies Atlanta. And all puns aside, this is the first time we've ever had a team in the city where everybody's a fan, because everybody's a transplant here, right? And to me, that's what's important, is to watch this city grow. Because when I grew up here, it was like just a bunch of suburbs. There was it wasn't like a desirable place to live. But in the past 10 years, Atlanta's changed. It is a mecca for culture, for hip hop, for just like diversity in general. I get reverse culture shock when I go to other cities. I'm like, where is it? This is like all white people, right? Like this is like really boring. Atlanta has so much vibrance and depth to the city. So thank you for like adding this on top, right? To add the technology, the future, to bring the futurists into the city is magical, man. So thank you, Marlon.